We take housing for granted. It may not be the nicest place, or it may be more expensive than we want, but we assume we will have a place to live. And yet we know there are many people who are homeless, and many more people whose homes are threatened. A group called City Life Vida Urbana has been doing an amazing campaign over the last few years to stop people from losing their homes. And in the face of giant bailouts and mortgage companies going under, what we've seen is a real pushback from community activists to make sure people don't lose their homes and have a place to live, and the huge companies don't make a profit off of it at the same time. So I want to introduce to you Paula Taylor and Francis Lewis, who are community activists and working with City Life on this incredible campaign around preserving housing for people.
My name is Francis Lewis. This is Paula Taylor. I've been involved with the housing crisis, house foreclosed in November of '07, fighting the bank for a year. They finally got us out in November of last year, so that pushed me and my family out to inadequate housing, much smaller. But we're still fighting with the bank, we did eventually still lose the house instead of trying to buy it back, but we're still fighting with the bank. Then, over the last week, we occupied a vacant foreclosed building. The nonprofit bank that we was working with, effective today, purchased the vacant property back from the foreclosed property of the new place in Roxbury, and that set up a sale, I believe. But so now, whatever happens, if we get it, we can get it. If not, somebody else will be able to profit from getting that unit from being vacant.
As she said, I'm Paula Taylor. My fight began with the bank after losing my condo in Roxbury to foreclosure. I bought a condo after being homeless for about a year, living at my mother's house, staying at my mother's house, who lives in a senior citizen home, on her couch, and then staying at a friend's house on her couch. So when the condo became available, I moved to purchase it. And I actually said to Bank of America, I can afford this. And they assured me, yeah, I can. And my reasoning was, well, I don't see it in my bank account, but if I'm coming to an individual and I say to you, can I borrow some money? And you say, let me see all your statements. If you're telling me that I can pay you back, then you must see something. So I thought the banks had seen something that I couldn't see. I was struggling for that first year in the condo, but again, it didn't faze me because I heard from a number of homeowners that your first year is an adjustment anyway. No matter how good your income is, it's just a big adjustment. Well, after a year went by, I finally lost the condo to foreclosure. But just before it was foreclosed, there were 3 units in this condo development. I found out that I was paying the gas bill and the electric bill for the other 2 units. And so that's what caused me to really fall behind in my mortgage, trying to keep my electricity on and my gas on. But the banks didn't want to hear that story. And again, I had another argument. Why was this put on the market if it wasn't up to inspection code? The first eviction blockade that City Life did for me, it was a victory. The bank backed down, and for about a month, I didn't hear anything back from them. And I went after them and told them that I wasn't going to leave based on principle. I was tired of seeing boarded up homes in my community, which lends itself to squatters, drug addicts, or just property that just sits there when someone else can live there that they caused the crisis that began. I had the home appraised. I bought it for $269. When I had it appraised just before they foreclosed, it was appraised at $150. And this is just in a year's time. And so I moved to ask the bank to allow me to buy it back at appraised value, and had even found someone who was going to purchase it in an effort to keep me in the home. And the bank didn't want to hear anything. I mean, they wouldn't even open up the doors for communication. So the second eviction blockade that we had, I was evicted by the constable, who packed up my stuff. And fortunate for me, my brother lived across the street, so I had them just pack my stuff up, and I moved it into my brother's basement. And then that happened in September, the first week in September, I believe September 5th. December 30th, they sold the condo for $149 and some change. I mean, still to this day, just almost in tears, because this is what it should have been set at from the beginning. This is what I probably could have truly afforded. I did an interview with Dateline NBC. I know I'm past the time. I did an interview with Dateline NBC, I think in March or April of this year. I was interviewed by Chris Hansen. And at one point I had been attending the City Life meetings and hearing stories over and over again on how people's numbers were changed on their document. And every time I heard it, I was going, phew, glad they didn't do that to me. Glad they didn't do that to me. Well, I'm interviewing with Chris Hansen, and he says to me, so you make $2,700 a month? And I'm like, I make what? No, he said $7,300 a month. And I'm like, I make what? I said, I'm a exercise physiologist, which is really just a personal trainer with a 4-year degree. He goes, no, it's here in the papers. He opens up my documents and shows it to me. And so, a little guilt on my part, but I had a lawyer there who I thought should have told me that the numbers were there. I remember asking Bank of America when they were, it wasn't Bank of America, it was Countrywide. It was bought out by Bank of America. If I could see the papers before the going to sign them. And they kept telling me, no, they're not ready. You'll see them at the closing. And I didn't know that was my right. It was just that I was anxious and I wanted to see them. And I came to find out later that was my right, to be able to see them long beforehand. But that's my story. And so that's where my fight began. I'm very angry. And I'm usually a person who would keep my business to myself. But I realized that I went through this for a reason. I lost my home. And I'll be damned if anybody else loses their home without me speaking up about it. And since, I think you were the last eviction blockade, she was, or was it the Escalade? Well, since then, there's only been, after my eviction blockade, there's only been 2 eviction blockades after that in which the people were moved out. City Life has been very successful since that time in saving people's homes. So.